Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. What do you want to do with it?
I guess that does come first. Sorry about that. Mr. Kimberline?
Here.
Mrs. Lanahan?
Here.
Mrs. Eichhorn?
Here. All right, and now we'll stand to the front. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll move to approve the minutes for January 22nd. Second. Any questions?
Mrs. Lanahan?
Yes.
Mrs. Eichhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Kimberline?
Yes.
Departmental updates. We do have Adam Howard here from the Health District to give us some updates from that particular department. Then we don't have any of the other updates from the departments. I kind of told them they have made on.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you. Just a couple things to share. The Community Health Improvement Plan has been finalized. The major priorities are mental health and addiction, chronic disease, and cross-cutting factors, which kind of address the housing issues, food insecurities, and transportation. Hope to have more coming on that later as we continue to move on. This is a plan that is from 2019 to 2022. I supplied Matt with a hard copy, and I'll give them an electronic copy tomorrow for distribution. One other thing, just to let you know that we are working on community profiles, and our goal is to inform the township of some common themes that we're seeing in the township, and we're trying to do that with all the townships and the villages in the city Stratford Health District. So we plan on having those ready by summer, and hopefully there'll be some information that you all can use and be some useful and knowledge-evoking, thought-evoking information. So that's all I have today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. Has everybody who wants to speak turned in a list, their name? Okay. We'll start with Larry Coolidge. You're on top.
Larry Coolidge, 2559 Jewett Road, Powell, Ohio, resident since 1973 in Powell, Ohio. And I have a question. I keep hearing about all the numbers that we're going to save, the amount of money we're going to save. I've never seen any calculations. Have you done any of those?
Who have you heard the numbers from?
Well, you were going to save us $3 million. And where does that number come from?
Well, that would be an estimate if we were to replace our EMS with Delaware County. That was, I think we talked about that maybe in some of the initial meetings. I don't believe you've heard any numbers come out of my mouth since then.
Well,
So
you're going to save us $3
me-
million. Was it $3 million, $10 million? How does that number come?
So Larry, it all depended on how we were going to improve service levels. So from the very beginning, I told you that all I was doing was considering every option to improve our service levels.
Okay.
The
Now,
one
you
option that the county proposed would have saved $3 million.
Okay.
That's the only number I ever said, and it was in reference to the county's proposal. If you've heard other numbers, you'll have to ask whoever said them.
Okay, well, that was you.
What were the other numbers you heard me say then?
Well, the $3 million, but
Is there another one? I just explained that. You
Well,
said
years
another
ago, it was
number.
23 million we saved, and I'd asked about that, and I never got an answer, and
Well, actually, it's 28 million,
oh, why
and that
not?
was over the course of the 10 years
Okay,
that we haven't paid the additional 2.5 million every year for 10 years.
on
And that also grows.
PV4, okay, on PV4, they gave the numbers, the time that it took for EMS responses. And I think like 9 was the average, Delaware County was 8, Liberty Township was like 5. How can you increase that number? Because that's what a lot, this is a life
Our goal
investment.
is to decrease the number, Larry, not increase it.
Well, if we're the lowest around and below the national average and below Delaware County, how are they going to improve that all of a sudden?
That's very simple. It improves by sending the closest, fastest vehicle every time.
Okay, do they do that now?
No, they do not.
Why not? In what areas?
Because the run cards don't have it that way. You'll have to talk to the head of 911. He'll be here
Okay.
at the next meeting and he can explain
Okay,
how the
now does
run
911, is this more of an adjustment that needs to be done with a 911 operator than to disrupt our EMS service?
Actually, it'll be resolved by turning our run cards over to 911 so that they can ensure that every time a Liberty Township resident calls 911, the closest, fastest vehicle will be dispatched. That is
Actually,
not
by
the
state
case.
law, we can't just tell a chief to hand over the report cards to the 911. Also, too, I would, as I think I had released before, if you actually look at the runs and the run cards that, or the run times that we're doing, the response times, I think that spoke for itself. I broke those all down in percentages. For those that didn't see that, I'm happy to share with you, but it was 93.6%. Last year, only 6.6%. And by the end of the 2018, 75% of the 6.6% was already changed. And now with the Station 304, we wouldn't have those issues. So those don't really exist if you look at the numbers.
Okay. I think, was it Gary Meyer or what, from Delaware, the commissioner?
Gary Merrill?
Merrill.
I think that example was his house.
What
And
example?
the example, it took a long time for the EMS to
Well,
get
there's more
there.
than one example.
How
Larry.
many?
And I'll bet if you were that 6%, you wouldn't be very happy.
Actually, it was 1.7% of calls. It wasn't even about those. So if anyone would like to bring up any other incidents, because we didn't have any complaints over it, as I just went over, our average time is 5:30 compared to Delaware County. Delaware County has a nice time too. They come in at, I believe it's 8:50, which is under 9 and under the national standard. But all these calls that supposedly happen, I've yet to see that on paper. In fact, when I analyze the numbers, I'm not seeing that.
Well, they're doing a geographical study of 911 right now, and
Okay.
it'll show where the vehicles were dispatched from to go where, and it's clear. And that's
If
why.
we had a mutual aid agreement
But
with
they-
all these people, I don't see the issue. We have a fire department.
The issue, Larry, is we're not sending the closest available vehicle, but we will be. It's one of the recommendations in the report from the chiefs. They acknowledge that we were not. 911 will tell you we were not. The chief will tell you we were not. The chief of Delaware County EMS will tell you we were not.
Are all the other
But on any
departments?
life-threatening call you were,
Okay,
absolutely.
here's the deal.
I'm sorry, I'm not done. I want to interrupt you. We on every life-threatening call, as we discussed before, that if you had someone that had, let's say, I can't think of an example, but something not life-threatening, the run cards were as in some areas of, okay, letting another that wasn't the closest truck, and just in case another call came in. If we want to adjust that, that's fine. That's why we have local control. That's what some of those issues were looked at the end of last year. But you certainly wouldn't hand over the control of the run cards, nor do I think we'll wait until, we'll just say that even by state law, I think we need to be looking into what we can and can't do. And I don't believe that we're allowed to tell a chief that a run cards have to be handed over to another 911 institution.
It's a recommendation that our chief made, so.
Actually, no, he was told that he would do it, and we'll wait to see what he says when he comes back.
It's on his report.
So we will see.
There's no
Thank you for the correction,
downside,
Sarah.
there's no downside to the closest squad going, none.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing. And if
So
you're the
why
person
would
that
you
lives
fight
20
it?
minutes away. you
The
can fight
reason
it.
you would is for the example that I have given before. And granted, we all have to give and take so we can make sure that we can move forward and heal. But for example, if you have someone that doesn't have a life-threatening and you send the closest medic, and then you have someone that calls in that's having a heart attack, now you don't have truly the closest medic coming. You now have someone farther away that has to come. So there is a downside, but regardless, if that is the way that we're going, then so be it. But there is a downside to it.
At the end of the day, Larry, we'll use all 4 stations that are closest to our residents instead of 2.
Okay, is there any reason to disrupt what's happening at 321 and 322
If
then?
we implement those changes, no.
Everybody will stay, nobody will get laid off.
If we implement those changes, no. That's the whole point.
When did all these conversations start of doing this?
I started asking the chiefs to make the run card send the closest vehicle 6 years ago.
Okay, when was
It was
the-
also the first conversation I had with our new chief, to please start sending the closest, fastest vehicle to our residents. And I'm gonna tell you, I disagree, and this might be two different philosophies, but for me, I don't care, first of all, 911 cannot ever determine with certainty what's going on. So when a woman calls and says, I have so much pain in my shoulder that I can't stand it,
Well, that's
I don't know what
possible, a
that
heart
is.
attack, they're gonna send the
Okay.
closest person.
but they didn't.
Well, that's a 911
They
issue.
called it a basic life support call. That is why I believe that I don't care if it's a basic life support or an advanced life support, every resident deserves to have the closest, fastest available vehicle sent to them. And that might be a difference in philosophy, but that is what I firmly
I don't
believe.
think that's anybody's difference in philosophy.
It is. She just explained that she thinks it's okay on a basic to not send the closest. I
But if we're in a
disagree.
mutual aid agreement with everybody around, why couldn't that happen?
It's gonna happen now, but it has not been happening.
That's what we
Because
expect will
Because our
happen.
chiefs would not change the run cards.
That,
And that just is all there is to it. I asked for 5 years of Chief Jensen, and one of the first conversations I had with Chief O'Brien was to please adjust the run cards. So for 6 years, I have gotten no cooperation in changing the run cards. And that's
Larry,
just
what
the
you're
way
gonna
it
find
is.
out as this time goes on, is that everything that was discussed in the gold and some of the things that Melanie, or Trustee Lanahan and Trustee Gepperline is referring to, in the documents that I believe are going to be presented to us within the next couple weeks, everything was already being addressed by the gold, or we had already done. The only outlier was the county that was invited to come to the gold did not. So now we've got a situation where hopefully there will be a presentation given to us by the county that basically mimics exactly what the gold was trying to do. The only difference is that they're the ones presenting it. So we will see how that transpires in a few weeks. But the good thing that I heard was that if we can maintain local control, we can maintain our processing genetics, if we can continue the funding system that we have, if, again, I don't believe we're going to see something come out that's gonna say that they're going to be dictating our run cards based on some of the conversations I had today. And also too, that they're going to continue letting everyone have their own medical directors, whether it's Ohio State or Ohio Health within that group. So that should have never had any impact of supposedly our leverage in negotiation or saving jobs, none of that. It didn't have anything to do with any of that. So we will see. But again, when we're talking about these, I don't remember hearing, we can talk about how pain in the shoulder, these are trained professionals, they know the right questions to ask. I don't think we had all of these issues. I've yet to see, I keep hearing all these broken systems. I don't see it. I don't see the numbers and analysis when I do it because I have spent an insane amount of time looking over it.
At the end of the day, Larry, we have not always been sending the closest vehicle. It's been going on as long as I've been a trustee. And that's how response times will be reduced, because we're gonna start doing that with every run.
Well, then we'll look at the numbers at the end and see if there's a difference.
But
And then
not one.
also at the end of the day, Larry, the new the OSU medical directorship is training 911, because he's also the medical director of the 911 center, and he's training them to ask different questions because they feel that they have not been asking the right questions to really understand truly what's the best.
Well,
Can you please tell me for the record exactly who made that statement that they were not given the correct information? I would just like to know who exactly that would be.
Chief Schilling said that their work at this group that has been gotten together, it's kind of a informal work group, that they are working on helping 911 to.
But who from 911 said that in the past they weren't being given the correct questions to ask or.
No, I didn't say they weren't being, I said they're improving the questions. This medical director is helping them. They weren't asking, they were not asking what this medical director wants them to ask. So it'll be good.
So that was from
if he's
Schulen.
working with them.
So the medical director from Ohio State's gonna take over 911 from Delaware
No,
County?
he already has. He is the medical, 911, Delcom, has a medical director. Delaware County EMS has a medical director. It is Dr. Panschel. And so 911 now has a medical director. And he is helping them to work on.
Well, that's the problem, then, it's 911, it's not our fire department.
At the end of the day, we need to send the closest available vehicle. I don't care if it's
I don't
basic or
But if
advanced.
that was the whole thing, the whole basis of why our community has been put through this nightmare since October,
It's a little more than that.
It was last
It's a
over
little
a
more
year
than
ago.
that. It's 6 years of trying to get the closest available vehicle sent to no avail.
I just know the
Now
story
that's
keeps
gonna
seeming to
happen.
change. We go through a statement,
But there's
we
more
prove
than
it by
that.
the numbers, that that's not what
There's-
the driving cause would be,
there's
and
more.
then it changes again.
In
So we'll wait
addition-
to see next week what the new thing
In
is.
addition to sending the closest available vehicle to every Liberty Township resident whenever they call 911, we're also going to have a cohesive unit between our number one mutual aid partner, which is Delaware County, and Liberty Township. So
But it's not, but again,
No,
it's
they
not
don't.
primary.
No,
It
they
never
don't.
was primary, and now within 304 station, those numbers are gonna change. And those numbers were a little bit misleading in the fact that they only come, when they come, if you're having like a hazmat or a water rescue, then we don't bring our regular mutual aid partners in. But with that even being said, again, that was already happening under the GOLD protocol. that we were going
But
towards.
nobody's implemented the gold protocol. According to Delaware County, nobody has fully implemented.
Well, Delaware County probably wouldn't have known because Delaware County continued to decline coming to the meetings. But yet now Delaware County, and again, at the end of the day, I want to try to stay positive, and if we can try to keep our cross-trained medics and our local control and so on, and if the county can now be implemented in all this, it will be great. But again, the county was invited to the gold, they declined, and there is nothing in the proposals that I've seen, the preliminary proposals, that is any different from what the gold and what we were already doing.
The protocol's the same?
Well, the protocols that they're gonna talk about implementing them, about even maybe coming back on in with the
Because they
goals.
use evidence-based protocol with quality assurance, all based on quality
Okay,
assurance.
you know we have quality assurance ourselves, right?
It's not at all, so like where we're going. No. It's not even close to the direction we're headed.
Well, then this will be interesting when they come in and
Can
talk
we see all
about
those
this.
facts in
Yeah,
writing?
they're going to present at the next meeting. Who is they?
Well, actually,
Would you
the
sign
Delaware
a
County-
contract with the residents of Liberty Township as a township trustee? You will never touch our firefighters in Station 321 and 322 during the information of what you're talking about. Would you sign that to take up for what your
No,
work you're talking about today?
No, that would be completely irresponsible. And just so you understand, you don't
What's
represent.
happening today is
I have
irresponsible.
to- I have to represent the majority of the people.
You are representing us. And by the way, I checked, these are all residents of Liberty Township. Nobody came in from another township. We're all independent voters. No one's telling us what to do.
Thank you, Larry. Do you have
Now-
any more questions?
Well, if I get a right answer, yes. But
Well, no, I'm probably not going to give you the right answer. I'm not going to sign a contract, but we're moving in a good direction.
as long as you don't change everything, we'll believe you. But if anything changes,
Larry, if you'll recall, years ago, it was only the other two trustees that laid people off. I voted against it, and I got everyone back to work in less than a year. I'm not about laying people off.
well, then why did we say it'd be great for 18 guys to look for new jobs?
I didn't say it'd be great for you guys.
What was your
well, it's
wording?
gonna happen.
I don't recall.
You don't recall that we would help them find new jobs?
Right, that if we decided to, if the voters decided to replace.
So there'll be a vote on this then. There'll be a,
Here's what I've always said, Larry. Here's what I've always said. All I'm doing is considering every option to improve service levels. We've already taken a big step in the right direction. And I said to you, if 2 or more of these trustees determine that replacement is the right answer, we will put it on the ballot. I would not decide that for the people. I've always said that. I don't know.
So this will be on the ballot before any changes are made to our Liberty Township Fire Department.
Well,
EMS
actually,
service.
it's looking like we're going to make the appropriate changes without having to do anything at this point. If we can get these things implemented. The county, the informal work group has presented something that's a little bit vague. In speaking with Delaware County this evening, they said that this is just a vague something to start with, but they have some somewhat demands that go with it. They're more specific with a little more clarity, but it's all things moving in the right direction to improve your service level.
Do you know the reason why Delaware EMS did not attend the gold program, whatever it is? I assume it's everybody working together, and now,
I'm going to be totally honest with you, I never heard of the gold program until 2 weeks ago when Chief O'Brien stood over there and said I had a conversation with him about it. I never knew there was a protocol called gold that represented these townships in the southern tier. So I can't explain.
Then why in the world are we the place we are? Excuse me. Why are we, if you weren't even aware of that going on, then how in the world could we say the system was broken if you didn't even know that was happening?
The system was broken to me because we were not sending the closest, fastest people. And because we were
that's a
completely.
911
and
issue
because-
with mutual aid.
It doesn't matter. If that's 911 issue, we have to accommodate it by sending the closest vehicle.
Well, then you need
Our
to
run
change
cars,
911, and that would happen.
it's happening.
Okay,
It never would have happened though, Larry, if we hadn't taken this on.
So what is she
Everything
doing?
would have been
well,
the
this,
same
you
old
should be,
same
you
old.
should
So what
be
is your,
after
that's not true, because
911,
the
not
chief
our fire
says.
department. You should be talking to 911 and not
They
our
are
EMS
being talked
service.
to. They're part of the
Okay,
group.
that would be the issue, not
But
that it's
Larry,
their fault.
it doesn't
They never been
matter.
trained properly.
It doesn't matter, Larry. It's wrong to not send the closest,
I
fastest
agree.
vehicle. And we were not. And I have been trying for 6 years to make it happen. And until there was a proposal from the county, nobody would
Are there
cooperate.
any minutes in the record how you did that?
Yes, I went to Chief Jensen repeatedly and said, I would like it if you would please review the run cards and send the closest vehicle. When Chief O'Brien came on staff, one of the first conversations I had with him was, Chief Jensen has refused to fix these run cards. I would appreciate it if you would look at the run cards and send the closest, fastest vehicle.
Did he do that?
He did not.
Okay, why was that?
You'd have to ask him.
Okay.
Well, did we have an outcry of some issues going on that I've yet to find about people not getting the service they want? Because with the 75% of people saying they wanted to continue with the current model that we have, and only being able to point supposedly to one incident, was there other ones were we not aware of a system that was supposedly failing? I still don't see any concrete numbers or examples.
Okay. If you're not sending the closest, fastest vehicle.
Tell me what
I
these are.
disagree with that. And I will have 911 send you a list of all the times we didn't send it. I can only listen to them, and they tell me, no.
You're
Well,
supposed to be
so
listening to
911.
our chief, and we
You're
should be
right.
getting information from him.
You run your residence down here through a novel.
Actually, I haven't. All I said was, no, I don't agree with that. Maybe you have, maybe Shara has. What I've done is said the whole time, I'm looking at every option to improve service. The catalyst was the Fitch report. Everything here was
The
standing.
Fitch report.
Fitch report came out, it is not horrible, and in fact, every recommendation they make is right off of page 6.
You know, but if you go to other communities and said, oh, you should use cross-trained firefighters. And that's where you want to change it. You're talking about bringing people down here who are not as well trained as our EMS service.
Okay, first of all, that's not true.
That is true.
Secondly,
That is true.
It isn't true. We'll have to
You want
agree
me
to
to get the
disagree.
credentials?
Larry, you'll be happy to know
We're
though,
gonna
Brett,
have
on
to
the, with the proposal that they're working on, that there won't
Not
be,
happening.
they wouldn't be coming in. So at least everyone, I mean, I should say that there's yet to be actions taken that would back up what we're saying here. And I'm hoping maybe we can do some actions that would back that up. But based on the conversations, at least that I have had to this point, that they have come to determine that the cross-trained medics would stay here, the Delaware County EMS medics would not be coming into our facilities.
Okay.
And we, not gonna be laying anyone off.
Let's write that down and sign it.
I'm one vote, and how about let's wait till next week? I believe it'll be not next week, next meeting, and our chief will go give a presentation. And I believe he's going to present what he wants to see happen, because it will come from what he knows will give better service to the community. And I truly believe that he wants that, and
Well, he should always want that, and every chief wants that.
absolutely.
And if we had a chief, you know, you guys made an effort to change chiefs, it became pretty tough.
Are
I
you
think-
okay with waiting to hear what he's got to say in a couple
Why
of
don't
weeks?
you don't do anything? We love transparency.
We're listening to public comment, and, but there's nothing on the agenda.
Okay,
that,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Gary?
Hi, my name is Celestine Garrity. I live at 9474 Claremont Boulevard, Powell, Ohio. I've been a resident of the Liberty Township area for 22 years. And I'm really confused, and I have been in knowledge. The last meeting was the first time I'd come to any of these meetings or knew about it. And so I'm really confused because I don't understand, especially as we just discussed with Larry, the issue of why this is all going on when all you really wanted to change was the 911 procedure.
But
Am I
that's not
wrong?
all we really wanted to change.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was it that I'm missing?
The catalyst of all of this was a report that came out in the summer because the county hired a consultant group to evaluate the 911 or the EMS. In that report, it brought to light several things that had concerned me for years. And it made recommendations. I thought the recommendations made a lot of sense. They're on page 60 if you'd like to see them. So, since this report was paid for by the taxpayers and done by what some people don't think is a reputable group, but I'm here to tell you that Dave Fitch is one of the most reputable EMS experts in the country, according to many. But in his report, he made some recommendations as to how services could be improved. I agreed with many of those. In fact, they were things that I've been trying to see happen for the past 6 years.
Besides
So-
911, are you still talking about some changes?
We're talking about a cohesive environment between us and our number one mutual aid partner. We're talking about ensuring sustainability of the level of medical care that we're able to provide the community.
And was there a reason that didn't seem to be working?
Yeah, yeah,
Because it sounds
it's-
like from
no.
the people I'm reading, that we've got excellent care here. And I know
We
they've
do.
come to my house twice, both for myself and for a visitor.
It can be a lot
and-
better. If we can improve something, that's what I like to do.
But there's a difference between
Yeah.
improving something and saying
Yeah,
something's
this
broken,
seems
so I'm excited to hear that you said it's
I
excellent.
think it's very broken. You think it was broken if you were waiting 15 minutes instead of 3.
When, factually, numbers-wise, back up that 15-minute statement. How many calls, percentage-wise, were 15 minutes?
How many do you want there to be before it's worthy of?
So
looking
what
at?
happened in that 15-minute supposed call, Melanie? Not,
It's
like I'm
not
saying
just
there.
one call.
But
Sharon.
it is, Melanie. You're
This is-
trying to do one thing to
Sharon,
blow the
it can be-
system.
It can be anybody up there that calls.
Then give
Anybody.
me an example, Melanie. I have gone
If any one of the
Fact.
if anybody in Doorknob picks up the phone and says, I need 911,
and do you know
and they
what's coming?
guess it's basic life support, they're going to wait.
How long do you think was happening up there? You seem to be aware of one incident.
No.
Because if you looked
I
at,
have been talking to 6 years. I just said that. Because I knew the
Then where's
run
your
cards,
numbers?
the run cards weren't sent in the post.
Where are your numbers, Melanie?
They're preparing them right now.
No, you could go in right now, down the hallway, and spend hours like I have to
You know
look
what?
at our numbers.
Here's
And
what
on
I
the
have to
fish
say
report.
about that,
Wait,
and how irresponsible I think that is. So what if somebody didn't call yet? What happens when they do? Some of you, how would you like to live in Dornock? Yes? Would you like to live in Dornock and know that it's gonna be 13 minutes instead of 3?
it's not
Would you
going
like
to
to
be
live there
13
and know
minutes.
if I call
If I
9?
break my arm, I don't care if they take 15
It's not going to be 13
doesn't matter.
minutes. It's not going to be
Yes, it
13
does.
minutes.
It's going to be longer.
And
It does.
It was 13 minutes at 4 a.m.
one incident out of all the
That's one
calls.
too many.
And so you turn the
your
community upside
question
down.
is, did you do this because of this? Yeah. First of all, I've been trying for 6 years to get the run cards to have the closest available.
I understand.
Second of all, I want to ensure sustainability. It's very difficult, based on property taxes, to have long-term sustainability on medical care.
Just show me your numbers on that, because I did that as well.
The
I'm
beauty,
not sure what you mean by sustainability. Are you saying that the training of the employees? or-
no, what I'm saying is you run out of money.
Well, I understand money.
Okay, that's what I'm
Okay,
talking
and I
about.
understand
Financial.
staffing.
Financial sustainability.
So you're saying you wouldn't be able to pay for these employees that we have or the training
As the
they need?
community grows and as pay increases,
We
and
just
our
increase taxes, but mine go
residents,
up.
were you here when the fire levy failed?
When the what?
Fire levy failed.
Thank you, yes, you would have been.
That would have been.
Okay, so do you know that the fire levy failed?
Yeah.
Okay, so because the people of the community weren't willing to pay more taxes, do you know that the Powellton tax failed? The people of the community aren't willing to pay more in taxes because their property taxes are very high. Our
And I know
own-
that I've paid for
If you
4
would run
high
the
schools
numbers.
since I've been here, so yes.
So that's
That
what I'm
means
talking about.
people are here.
Eventually, people say, no, no more.
But if you did on our current numbers, Melanie, did you run the numbers out? Because if you did, you would see that we can still sustain it.
The beauty of our current system, the beauty of the county system is that it is financed.
Financed how?
Oh, that's soup. The beauty of the county EMS is that it is financed
Sorry about that.
by sales tax. Sales tax, and which is growing exponentially in the county. So if there is a resident that they are closer to, and if we're going to partner with anybody, it needs to be them.
But I don't understand why if we have
We
better
don't
than
need
they
it.
have, then maybe something's still wrong.
Say that again?
Well, if we have better, more reliable, better trained fire department.
We don't.
Okay, well, they don't have the training. We don't.
Yes.
Are you kidding?
I'm sorry, we're saying the closest and most appropriate truck that we've heard 32 times tonight. Why in the world then would we say would only be partnering with Delaware County when you would want to have, like we have now, all the mutual aid agreements? And going back to your Fitch report, even though she keeps citing about the recommendations, if you read the Fitch report, it points out a great deal of issues with the Delaware County EMS system. And it was, when they were hired, it wasn't for them to look at us specifically, it was for them to look at Delaware County. And after that came out, the only community that has caused the uproar has been Liberty Township. And Orange could have looked at it. Delaware City at the time could have looked at. There could have been so much more going on, but it wasn't even a final draft. So for that to be the catalyst for a document that was never even adopted as the final when it was brought to our attention, and that talks about they have plenty of things they need to fix first.
So Delaware City is engaging in this partnership.
With an Ohio Health Medical Director.
So the county benefits from a revenue stream that we can't. So when we partner with the county,
I mean, I usually almost always vote for any kind of taxes because I believe that they normally are helping our community. So I'm just concerned that maybe we're not advertising our levies or our tax requests in an effective manner because there's such an issue today when you're talking about our school systems and when you look gone on with the shootings and the bombings and the things of children in danger. I want the best staff possible to come to our schools and help us.
Yeah,
And I
you're
think
gonna-
that's what we already have, so I'm still just.
Well, we can
don't
agree to
totally
disagree on
understand.
that.
Yeah.
I believe that your service can be better.
Oh,
And so
everything
that's what
can always
we're,
be
that's what
better.
we're trying, yeah, and so we're able to achieve that now.
Okay,
Delaware County's made that a possibility.
the chiefs they've prepared a rough draft of a start. And they say that we have a rare opportunity to make our services even at a higher level.
That was excellent.
Which would have been accomplished again through the goals.
So that's what we're trying to do.
already at a pretty good, a high level, so it's a rare opportunity. and
Some
that's
people
possible,
consider our services the best in the state,
but yeah. that's
certainly
right.
amongst there, but
Yes.
they all recognize that we can take it to an even higher level. So I want to wait to see what the chiefs say, and I think it's going to be something they're going to ask us to implement.
Well, I appreciate your help, all of you, and I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you.
I know it's a hard job, I can watch you and tell. Thank you.
Jean King, Joan King. Sorry, I don't have my glasses. Joan. Hello. Hey, how are you?
Hi.
My husband asked me to come
Name
to...
and name and
Oh,
address,
I'm
please.
sorry, I'm Joan
Just for the
King.
record.
I live at 1820 Abbotsford Green Drive. I've been a resident of Liberty Township for over 35 years. And my husband, less than 2 weeks ago, had an emergency at 3 o'clock in the morning. And his background, as Nancy knows, he's a pediatric surgeon, a full professor of surgery at Ohio State. The teaching award is named after him, and he has many, many accolades. He told me to call, and they came within, the squad, they came within 8 minutes to our house. He could not breathe at all. And he had had an ablation done on Friday. When they came a couple days later, he said it was amazing. He said if they hadn't been there in 10 minutes, he would have been dead. He had no ability, and he was so impressed with the expertise that he said he couldn't have done better himself. And they were outstanding. And he wrote a letter, and I do not have a copy of it. It was sent to the director. But I beg you, these people really know what they're doing, and unless you experience something like this, and you know what you're doing, and indeed my husband does, you cannot criticize these people in any way. We need to have them in our community, and we need, 8 minutes, and he would have been dead.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm not criticizing our guys at all.
No, they do.
They need to be local, and they need to be here.
Yeah.
And if he came, he would speak much better than I would, because he's an expert at it.
We agree with you, 100%.
Well, I think you need to leave things the way they are. I have talked to numerous people.
We're just adding to what we already have.
Well, I have a feeling you're going to have my husband, along with myself and a number of people against your opinions. I really do.
Well, my opinion
I'm
is
so
your
used to see, he is so used to seeing data and figures.
I don't know if you heard me, I said I agree with you.
Why are you changing everything then?
We're not changing anything, we're improving stuff. There is a lot of misunderstanding.
I'm gonna ask this
Now,
question.
let's clarify it all right now.
Has there been any change proposed by any trustee?
Yes,
Please tell us.
medical director.
You guys are changing your story.
You said you want to look at the facts and then make decisions, but you
If you,
changed.
when they make the recommendations at the next meeting, you'll understand that stuff. April,
April Oni, 10416 Torrington Drive, Powell. I've been a Liberty Township resident for 13 years. My question is, all we've heard from the beginning is we have a broken system. We have a broken system. We have a broken system. And the first thing I want to know, what is broken? We have heard, all we've heard is we have a broken system, but we haven't heard anything that is actually broken. And I need facts. I am a facts person. I was talking to my father about this last week. He's like, what's going on with the Liberty Fire Department stuff? And so I'm telling him, he's watching videos and he's hearing words that you guys are saying, and he's like, how are decisions being made and there's no facts being given? And I want to know, how can you make these decisions and you have no facts? You're not giving us any facts.
Well, the only decision that we've made is to enter into a new agreement with the new medical directorship. And there were many facts for that.
So here's what I'm gonna say to you, Trustee Lenahan, is I am so sick and tired, and I think all of these people are also, of hearing, there's many facts. Will you start telling us what the heck the facts
I was
are?
just going to when you.
No, you said to me, well, there's many facts.
I said there's many facts, and here is why several of the reasons why we worked on a different medical directorship.
Let her talk.
One of the main reasons is because we wanted to work with the same medical directorship, not medical director. There's, at the Ohio State University, they have a medical directorship program.
Okay.
And under that program, those doctors report straight up to the people in that, what do you call it, your chart. So they report straight up. There's no dotted lines, okay? They report straight up. And under that medical directorship, we have the liability of the Ohio State University. They appoint a medical director that they think is best suited to our community. They've given us 2 medical directors that both live here in Liberty Township. Under that medical directorship, they are full-time employees at the Ohio State University, and when they appoint them to Liberty Township, those hours are taken away from their responsibilities at the hospital. It's part of their full-time job. It's not something they do on the side. It's part of their full-time job, and they report up to the leaders in that department who evaluate them. It's part of their full-time job, okay? It's a liability. If somebody's unable to serve in that position, you immediately have somebody else. There's not a wall in having a medical license. It's the university immediately replaces them. In addition to that, the Delaware County EMS partners with Ohio State University Medical Directorship. And one of the things that was important to them and to us was that we worked under the same medical directorship.
Who said that? I want to know specifically who said that, because that contradicts conversations I even had today. So are you saying in front of all the residents and on record that you were told for us to further this deal or anything else like that, that we had to be under it? Because then if that would be the case,
The recommendation
City of Delaware,
the medical development of a unified medical direction, development of a single evidence-based medical protocol.
wait, stop, go back, read that sentence again,
Establishment
because
of
they're
a
talking
single-
about working together with Ohio Health and Ohio State. If you actually talk to them about what that meant, it wasn't about falling under one medical entity. So,
Establishment of a single continuous quality improvement program. And these things are best.
Sir, but you're not answering these
These things are
questions.
Clearly.
I'm not, yeah, you're not answering my question. I'm asking, what
I
facts?
just gave you 4 reasons why I believe that it's best to do that.
but it's not that what she is referring to.
Trustee.
It's not
I
about
disagree.
Ohio State. No, it's not about disagreeing. If so, I will go on the record saying of when I spoke with the commissioners, there was never any indication to me when not even indication, when I flat out asked, that for us to be able to do any kind of further negotiation, that we had to go with Ohio State. That never was the case, Trustee Linehan. So are you saying that we did that because you were under the impression that we had to move to Ohio State?
The recommendations I just read to you. It's way more, these are easier to achieve when you're working with the same medical directorship. Our medical directors actually report to Dr. Panschel, who is the medical director of 911 and the medical director of Delaware County. If you don't see how that makes things better, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, that makes
There
sense.
you go.
Yes.
In your opinion. Are you a medical professional? Are you a medical professional? Do you have anything behind your name that says you have the credentials to make those decisions for us?
I'm sorry, we don't have one of those on staff, ma'am. And as your trustee, it's my job to staff the township.
Your job is staff the township?
Yes, ma'am.
We're actually, our job is to give the budget to the fire chief.
Don't we have a
By state law,
township administrator
by state law, it's our job to tell the chief that this is the amount of money he can use for the staffing he can use. We, by law, can't tell him how to assign that staff. So that's where he has to look at that. And again, City of Delaware, who's a part of this, has Dr. Gabriel from Ohio Health. I don't have anything against Ohio State, I don't. Phenomenal organization. But this idea that we had to go that direction, where we're not able to make any other decisions until we have these presentations, but yet we haven't had that presentation, yet we still went forward with medical directors, will forever make no sense. But anyways, with that being said, we're at the position we are at now today, and we've got to try to keep plowing further and help the community heal. So we're hoping that happens.
Well, what we would like to know is what's broken. I just want to know what is broken. You keep saying we're broken.
Okay.
What is
When
broken?
we aren't sending the closest, fastest vehicle, that's broken.
Is that the only, okay. Is that the
I think
only?
it's irresponsible. I think it's horrible. I think it's unfair to people who don't live down here by the stations. I think it's awful. It's worse than broken.
So what impact, again, do you have factually to back up any of those incidents? Or are you just saying that you're protecting that one call that may happen down the road? And I'm saying that's fine, we're looking at it, but
There's 1,000 people that are involved, that live closer than these stations.
so explain to me, Melanie, based on the fact all we had to do was a tweak to the run card, and instead, we talked about doing
Okay.
a whole county coming in,
No,
right?
there's a
No,
lot more to it, and I've already answered it. There's a tweak, to call something a tweak, when people are.
And what percentages? What
This one
percentages?
part is not a tweak.
All right.
It's disgusting.
People want that. Can you please do
And it's
data?
broken.
Okay, those are words to try to tug at emotions
Data.
and election literature, but I'm trying to say, where is the data and the facts?
Where is the data? That's all I'm asking for. Where is the data? I have seen zero data from you. Zero
I don't
data.
need data to know. I didn't finish my sentence.
Repeat that. I don't need to.
Let her finish, right? Let her finish. Don't be rude. Let her finish.
I don't need data to know that this truck takes longer than this truck. And everybody deserves to have the closest truck. End of story.
And we have mutual aid, correct? Am I wrong?
We're not
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
How are we not utilizing mutual aid?
You're
How are we
not
not using
listening. I said we're not utilizing it because we aren't sending the closest truck in our mutual aid partnership agreement. We just aren't. That's broken to me. Maybe you call it a tweak. I don't.
Then I
Okay, so then if that's the case, okay, let's go back. Let's go back then.
No.
Let me know, I want to ask you one other question then, because this does go on to something that is on the agenda tonight. So if we're not doing anything, that basically it's the 911, it's all this stuff, you're saying Delaware County is not coming in here, then are we finally going to do this amendment to get rid of this Delaware County proposal that's coming on the?
As soon as we have the contract, yes. As soon as we have the contract.
There's not going.
That puts these recommendations in place.
There's a difference between a system and a contract. Trustee Lanahan, what are you expecting then? What are you expecting? Are you thinking that they're going to be handing us over a contract or a system of guidelines, like a guidelines into a system?
I think ultimately we're gonna have a contract. And it's gonna be with Delaware County. It says, run cards are it's going to assure us that the run cards always send the closest available vehicle.
So are you going to show us other data and other facts? Can you please, I'm asking very nicely, can you please present data and facts as to what your decision, how it's going to help us, how you're basing your decisions on instead of just your feelings?
Let me ask you a question.
Instead of you feeling that this is the best.
Feelings?
That's what you just said a little bit ago. That this is, you feel that this is the best decision.
I feel that a truck that's 3 minutes away should be sent instead of one that's 15 minutes away.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But,
That's not.
I agree, and I'm a nurse, I've been a nurse for 20 years. I agree with Shira to the fact and to what Dick Frankenberg said, that if I have a broken foot or a broken arm or I fell, and I'm okay with letting that truck be 12 minutes away, because you know what? If my neighbor Ron here has a heart attack, and then there's not a truck closest for him because I broke my arm, and you had to send the closest truck, I don't want that. That is broken. That's broken.
Wait, time out. Here's our 2 stations. Here's Dick, or somebody who's having a heart attack. This truck is now 20 minutes away.
Where?
How's that good?
Wait a minute, say that again.
No, wait a second. You're saying, I'm going to send the closest truck.
Instead of the Delaware County truck, which is 3 minutes away from this doorknob house, okay? Instead of that going, and both of our trucks being sitting in our garage, 911. Okay, just a minute, please. Instead of, okay, here we are, doorknob, and 911 thinks it's basic life support.
304 was always going to end up going to doorknob. Stop using that as an example. Use anything else, Melanie. Trustee Lanahan.
It doesn't.
Delaware City 3. Delaware City 304 just opened. It wasn't open before.
But you know what was there before?
Delaware County.
Delaware County EMS was there before, and your vehicle that was here to save your life was up there if it had to go.
Well, no, but you're saying the whole system is broken because of that, where it was just, we could make it a change, oh, okay. And so that is, so for 6 years, all you cared about was quick responses, except if you were at the zoo, since you were on record saying you didn't care about the response time to the
No,
zoo.
I said Delaware County should service the zoo, so our trucks are here for our residents.
That's not the police.
All I'm asking from you is data.
That's all
I'm asking from you
So only
is
closest
for
to
data.
data. Only closest
For us,
to
for you to
appropriate
finally
truck.
give us data, give us facts,
911 is
and give
working.
us,
They're putting it together. They're doing a geospatial study. You'll have to wait on that. And also in 2 weeks, they'll all be here to present.
But are you under the understanding that they're coming?
but why, okay, so if we're waiting, okay, then let me ask one other question and then I will be done. If we're waiting on this and we're waiting on all these studies and we're waiting on all these facts and figures, why were there any at all decisions? Medical director, you could have extended the medical director out for another 30, 60, 90 days until you got all of your information, you got all of these studies, until there were actual decisions to be made. You had Ohio Health that, wait a second, please let me finish because I let you and I made sure everybody else let you talk. So give me the common courtesy.
I was going to answer your question.
I was not quite finished, I was still talking. And so then you had all these you had Ohio Health that gave you a proposition or proposal, but you didn't want to wait to let them, so you could look at the whole picture and you get all your studies and you look at everything before you made any decisions.
I did that.
Why? Why would you do that?
I did look at everything.
You did not go back.
How did you look at everything when you just told me you didn't have the facts and the studies are still working?
You've switched to medical director.
This is all, it's all the same thing. It's all with the EMS.
The medical director.
The contract was expiring.
We we already extended it 130 days. You could have extended it another 30, 60, 90 days till you got all the other information and you had the big picture.
April, make no mistake, that medical director contract that I didn't see until again Sunday or Monday at 9:45, that was already put on the agenda before she even met with Ohio Health. So this idea that we spent the time or went back and negotiated, that's not the case. And again, if you were waiting for everything, then why do we have to make it why would you?
Am I not making sense, Shira?
No,
That
you are.
before you make any decisions about anything, you should have the whole picture with, obviously, you just said you don't have.
We do have the whole picture about medical director. We've had the whole picture. We have been working with the same medical director. I've been a trustee for 7 years.
It all, Melanie, when are you gonna understand it all falls under the same umbrella? It's all connected. Don't make any decisions about any parts and pieces until you have the whole.
I gathered all the information.
Thank you for your time. You are not making any sense to me, but thank you for your time.
The last meeting, the medical director, the new contract with OSU is not a precursor to. what
Nobody
goes
said it
on
was a
with
precursor.
EMS. They're not related. They are not related, except that we want to have the same medical directorship as the county and the countywide.
Why, okay, then why do, wait a second, then can you answer this for me, please? Why do we have to have the same medical director as the county when you have Delaware City, who will be covering door knocker, they're already covering door knocker, right, like, recently?
Scott,
They
did
have
you
Ohio
open up or
Health. You have all the other
Ohio
townships.
Health, Harlan, Ohio Health, Concord, Ohio Health, Liberty was Ohio Health, and Orange is Ohio Health.
So if you have everybody else that's Ohio Health, you have one outlier that's Ohio State, why did we have to go with Ohio State? Why wouldn't we want to stay with the majority and they should be coming into Ohio Health?
I felt, and apparently Mike as well, that Ohio. You all act like a bunch of children. I need you to start telling people that they need to leave if they're going to act like that.
Whatever you were told to say.
No laughing.
Acting disorderly, if they're just, I don't.
Yeah, you have to
First
stop.
Amendment.
Well said.
The reason I chose the OSU medical directorship and recommended it to the Board of Trustees, because I feel they have a far superior program. They have so much more to offer. Their medical directorship program is so much more developed, and you're gonna see that soon.
Okay, now wait a second. So what do you know about Ohio Health? Did you do any research? Did you do the
Yes,
same amount of
I already
research
answered this.
as?
I already answered this. Here's what I know about Ohio Health. They have a dotted line to the doctors. The doctors, it's not part of their full-time jobs.
I don't
They're
want
not
us to go on the
paid by
record saying
university.
false information. So if that is false information, I think that we are best to say,
If my assessment.
we are not as a board
it's
going to
my
go on
job-
there saying that.
Just
because
like
that's not true.
anybody else, just like any other trustee, it's your job to make a decision that you feel is best. I felt that was the best decision.
And once again, you have no medical
It doesn't matter,
background
I still
to.
have to make a decision.
And you have to tell Mike.
I don't have any parks background either, but we approved the hiring of every park person that works.
Not my safety.
I don't have any background in roads.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
we hire all the people who do our roads. And we've never had a doctor select our medical director. Okay, next. Steve Herman.
Hi, my name is Steve Herman. I live at 3609 Stonewood Point, Powell. Been here for 17 years. This is my third meeting. I find it quite exciting to sit here and listen to this. The only fault that I feel is that you were unable to pull some people from your apathetic, silent majority to come to this meeting and talk about how they feel positively the job that you're doing. It's all of us against you. So it is representative government.
Just me or me and Mike?
Well, I mean, same thing. Same thing. Right. So it's representative government. I don't know who you're representing. I have used EMS several times, and because of that, I have sat down and considered what could be done better. What could they have done better? And the only thing I've come up with is that if they could beam me directly to the hospital, like Star Trek. Other than that, I don't see any reason for, or any way they can be improved. But I have a theory while all this is happening. OSU is building this facility in the township, soon to be annexed into this city. And I think OSU wants to be the go-to for all our medical needs. So all this is a big plan, okay, of subterfuge until they have a functioning hospital, which makes the city's indignance over what you're doing very disingenuous. So I don't have the authority or the means to look into this to see what exactly is going on. So I have filed a complaint with the state auditor. So maybe he can look into this and see if there's any kind of monkey business going on. I don't know if it's right to collude with a state agency, but you and the OSU seem to be too close for comfort.
Regarding your first statement that you don't see how it can improve without you being beamed up, I just wanted to let you know that the people who live and breathe this every day for 30 years got together and they disagree with you. They think that it can be improved. And they've made the recommendations.
So where are they?
They're your fire chief, they're the chief of Delaware County EMS, they're the chief of Delaware City EMS, and they're the guy who runs the 911 and the medical bay. All believe that we can do better.
And I'll reiterate all that information that she's talking about at the bottom, that she was already being done, or already being the works of done for the gold system. So again, I think it's great that the county's coming involved, and then I hope we can make it to a positive. But this idea that Fitch report spurred these changes on is just false, because it was already in the works.
I disagree.
That you were aware of the gold protocol, you can't disagree because you don't know what it's about.
The Fitch report identified what was wrong. It made recommendations, and now all these chiefs have gotten together. They agree with the recommendations. They agree that we can do better. The police chief of the city of Powell agree that we can do better. And we're going to look at their recommendations. We're going to be presenting in 2 weeks.
See what the state auditor has to say.
But not one of them are going to say the system was ever broken. If you talk to all of them, they're going to talk about how exemplary our system
Do
is.
you have an ulcer from doing this?
I'm sorry?
I said, do you have an ulcer from doing this?
I think all three of us probably don't feel so great from
I had talked to Chief O'Brien. He wanted to be here tonight. I've talked with Chief Schuling. I've talked with Gary Vest. Chief O'Brien is deathly ill. He apologized that he couldn't be here tonight. He wanted to present. Rather than present what they have put, the start of a draft that they put together, I'm heeding that for him until he gets well to present. Chief Schuling also thought it was appropriate that Chief O'Brien present. So did Gary Vest. Hopefully,
But how about the people that waited 15 minutes? How about the people, not, officials, but people in the township that know that it could be improved? I've never seen anybody here And one would think that you have so much zeal with this, that you could somehow get your neighbors, anybody to come to this meeting and just say, hey, we agree with you.
Were you here the time that somebody did do that? And everybody shouted her down and laughed at her?
On the record said she was for this. She talked about some nonprofit organization and about us treating the trustees with respect. She never once said she was in favor of that.
So she wasn't going down the right road, and so she was pretty much attacked.
Well, I've been to 3 meetings, my 3rd meeting. I haven't, and quite frankly, I'm kind of disappointed that we're down to a 1 deputy meeting again. All right. That's all I have to say, I think.
Can we wait to see what Chief O'Brien says? Would that be reasonable?
Good evening, trustees. I'm Nico Fernando, 2855 Lexington Drive in Liberty Township. I've been a resident 7 years next month. We've talked a little bit about data tonight, actual data points, facts that we can sink our teeth into and start making decisions on. I wanted to bring to the record the 2018 mutual aid numbers that participated with Liberty Township, either gave aid or received aid. There were 7 agencies that participated with us in the 2018 calendar year. The most number of runs that they worked with us was the Concord Township Fire Department. They had 45 runs total. Second was Washington Township, which is also Dublin. They had 38 runs total. Orange Township is 3rd with 30 runs total, and Delaware County is 4th out of that list with 23 runs total. Columbus was 5th with 10 runs total. The City of Delaware was 6th with 6 runs total, and that was before Station 304 opened, and it's going to be taking some of the run cards that you discussed. And then Worthington Township was last on that list with 4 runs total. So there's 156 runs total of aid that was given. The Delaware County EMS share of aid received, and that's not given because we didn't give aid to Delaware County EMS last year, is 30%. So 70% of the aid that we received came from other agencies. The Delaware County EMS share of the total aid, 23 runs against 156 total, is 14.7%. So to say that that is the primary agency that responds and helps our township doesn't seem to be borne out by the data from last year. I'll also note...
Exactly. That's the point. We're not sending them when they're closest.
Well,
No, actually, we send the closest and the most appropriate truck, and that's what our mutual aid agreements are, and that's what we have in place now. So actually, when you look at the numbers, I think at the 2019, which we'll take a look at, you're not going to see this tremendous rise because you're still going to be looking at Orange Township helping, Concord helping, because if you started looking at where the stations are, right, it's still going to make sense for when you're on this side to have Concord help, when you're on this side to have Orange help. So, but again, keep going on with facts and data. I like hearing it.
That's a fair point. There are going to be lots of different areas in the community that are helped by lots of different agencies. And as Dr. Hammer pointed out, Concord Township, Ohio Health and Medical Director, Orange Township, Ohio Health and Medical Director, Delaware City, Ohio Health and Medical Director, Washington Township, Ohio Health and Medical Director. So as a share of the aid that was received or given in this township last year, that's 76.3%.
I think when you see the cards get adjusted, it might look a little different.
If Delaware County or Delaware City and 304 starts to handle some of the northern routes, then that would shift more runs towards Ohio Health facilities.
Dr. Gabriel's going to be working with OSU.
He's a physician at Grant, he's the chair of the department. I don't see him moving over
I'm
anytime
saying
soon.
that he is willing to fully cooperate.
Well, Ohio State, Ohio Health was, both were going to cooperate again. Under Gold, too, they were going to cooperate. So again, that was never the issue. And again, that's why we didn't have to change medical directors. But go ahead.
So those bits of facts, I think it's important to have some data around which we can have a community discussion. That, as you know, we've seen for 2.5 months now, lots of people in the community are very tuned into, and I think we all want to make the best decision for our community. And I think I would echo some of the other comments that have been receiving that happens first and foremost with a data-based approach. So some data for that. Another couple points of data. It's not been discussed a lot, but there is There are two different standards that fire departments try to meet nationally. One's called NFPA 1710, that's for professionalized and urban firefighting departments. And there's NFPA 1720, which is for rural and volunteer departments. Our Liberty Township Fire Department operates under 1710, which has higher regulations, lower runtime scores that they need to meet to be able to hold that standard. Delaware County EMS operates under 1720 because they have a lot of rural population. So when we say that the services are the same or better, we need to remember that they're not even operating at the same higher standard as fire departments. The other thing that is of concern to me, because I will have a child in the schools shortly, and I'm sure is a concern to resource officers throughout the Old County Local School District, I think we actually have one here this evening, is that DCEMS can't go into active shooter situations right now if, God forbid, that were ever to fall our township. They lack the necessary equipment and additional training, and our Liberty Township guys can go in with the police folks to start treating immediately. And we all know that in traumas and bleeding situations, those minutes matter. I want to make sure that we keep our active shooter response teams in place, fully trained, fully manned. So goodness forbid that ever finds a home in our community, that we're able to respond and minimize any loss of life.
Nothing's changing.
Nico, I'm sorry, did you say there's someone from the school board here tonight, a school?
Not a school board, but we're very lucky. We're very lucky that one of the special duty deputies this evening is also, for his day job, a resource officer in the school.
Yeah, and just to make clear, the Olentangy Local Schools did send us a letter and ask before any changes would be made that at least that they would be brought in to the fold, and it had at least a seat at the table to understand how any changes would impact them because of the students, and that has not happened yet, so hopefully they'll be able to be brought on board.
Again,
So
there's no
no matter
changes.
what would have happened, we would always have those guys staffed. No matter what.
No, we wouldn't have cross-trained medics if we would have went with the original proposal. You wouldn't have had cross-trained
Yes, you would.
medics.
Yes, you would.
Are you talking about when the fire showed up? But the EMS guys, you still would have been having it cut down. It'd be the same thing as if they showed up first, the Delaware County under that proposal would have showed up at the school first, they would have had to wait for them to show up as well.
Do you think that's who would have been dispatched for them?
If they're here in our station, if they're 321 and 322.
We would always have cross-trained firefighter paramedics under any situation.
But you would have decreased the number by that proposal, so it would still be the same amount, but whatever.
Hypothetical does not happen.
Wait a minute, it's hypothetical, we can make changes based on one person, that has never happened, but when we're talking about the school,
We're not making the changes.
One other question.
There would have always been cross-trained.
Show me the proposal when we were doing it. There is no proposal that's been made from any trustee to change EMS services, period.
So the one other question I had, that was a follow-up from the first comments I gave to the Board of Trustees. I asked at that meeting the question about whether voters can vote on this as a matter of state law. And I believe that there was some there's some discussion that you probably didn't know the answer precisely, but Prosecutor O'Brien happened to be here that evening, and the prosecutor's office was going to research it and get back to you guys. I've not received yet an answer to that question. I wonder, are you able to share the information that you received from the prosecutor's office about whether or not we actually can vote on this, as you said you wanted to have happen?
Yes, you can. And here's how you can. You put a replacement levy that's fire only.
but
And do you anticipate that coming down the pipe at any point?
First, we need to fix these problems.
the problems that we don't have the numbers to back up. But going back to about the, talking about the rollback, because I think it's important for the community to understand it. There's two ways that you can do a rollback. You can go through the budget commission, and how that works is you have the auditor, the county auditor, you have the prosecuting attorney, and you have the treasurer on that board. Now, the problem is you got to look at when you're looking at a levy, not just 1 year, but all the years out, because you're going to look like you have extra money in the beginning, but at the end, it's used towards the end. So you have to look at the whole thing. But when you're going through there, if you can show that we have an excess amount of money, we want to return some money to the residents, you can actually even do that on a 1 year, or you can pass it multi-year if you want. That way, then they take a look at it, you submit the budgets, and you prove that you have a surplus. As long as you can prove that, then they approve that, and then there could be money then return to the residents the following year of what your bill would say. As I had said before, the problem with your question of can there be like a ballot issue that says, do you want countywide EMS, yes or no? No, it can't work that way. So if you go through a tax levy rollback and not everybody's understanding that, they're sitting in the booth just thinking that they can get money back, but they don't quite understand why or how. What happens is then we won't have enough funding to do our EMS. The county will be forced to come in and take us over. Then when they're put in a situation like that, we have zero leverage to be able to work on a deal. So they wouldn't even have to give us the proposal that they first gave us in October, which I think anybody would agree that if we went that way, that we would work on that. I'm sorry.
You're like Chicken Little. You assume like the sky is falling.
That is so disrespectful. You are, no, stop, no, I'm gonna finish mine. So we go to the commission.
That is so hypothetical and of so much nonsense.
No, it's not.
And that's what's wrong with the whole message that's in our
Because
community.
why would, if you were such a CEO of a company, why would you sit there and put us in a position without having zero leverage when there's another avenue we could use to bring money back to the community if it even warranted with? Which I think when they make a presentation, they'll show that we have the appropriate funding. But if not, at least I'm trying to educate with facts about what the two scenarios would be.
There'd never be a rollback. It would be a replacement levy, not a rollback. I don't even know where that comes from.
But
So,
you're not
I'm sorry,
going.
I want to make sure, so our current levy is fire and EMS, but what you were suggesting is there might be a replacement levy for fire services only?
If people want the opportunity to vote on replacing EMS with Delaware County, that's how it would be on your ballot. It would be a replacement. There wouldn't be a rollback.
But if you have the replacement there, how are you going to stop that then? If you're saying there wouldn't be any layoffs, Trustee Gephardt.
That's another scenario.
Oh, okay. Wait, I thought for a second we couldn't play in hypotheticals. I was just called Chicken Little and I'm not allowed to play in that.
That's how it would be on the ballot. And if Mars lines up with Venus and the sun comes in between, I mean, it's like there's so many ifs. The only if.
Only when you're not playing in stats and
So
real data.
the way that would end up on the ballot is a resolution of the trustees that would put that question.
Yeah, you have to have 2 out of 3 trustees think that that's the right answer. Clearly, we're suggesting that these improvements are the right answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe?
Joe Stackenberg. I live at 10767 Brentwood Drive. I'm a guy who's been asking for numbers since the start, and I'm very happy to hear some of the data that's coming out. Last week, I came out with a very, very preliminary model results. This is not a venue probably to discuss what that really means, but last week, 2 weeks ago, the number was 6 to try to size the number of lives that could be at risk were we to implement a proposal, which now it's a fundamental problem is it's hard for us to really say what is really the basic intention. You really moved the mark on us. And it's very, very
From the
difficult.
very beginning, Joe, we've said the same thing. We're looking at opportunities to improve your service.
I'll discuss what was. I mean, remember you and I met.
From the very beginning,
Yeah.
that's
So
in
anyway.
our message.
Now, Joe, I think I told you also that my baseline was improved services from the very beginning. when we talked.
Anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So my number this meeting is 40,170. That's the number of records that are in the data set that I have in my possession from the county. I'm not going to replicate any analysis you've done. The things that Nico just reported on, could have come from that. I actually was not aware of 911 doing a geospatial study, so I'd be interested to talk to them. My work is going to be toward trying to do projections, trying to understand. You talk about hypotheticals like it's a bad word. I mean, it's an actually, data science actually can help you understand, quantify what are the results. There are always trade-offs. Melanie, Trustee Lenning, you talk as if there is an absolute best way to do it, and you talk about sending the closest truck. And that's probably I'd have to imagine that probably is usually the right thing. And I was scanning over the data initially, and I think everybody agrees that there were some longer response times to that neighborhood. I mean, I've heard everybody agree, and that it's already addressed. So that's perfectly fine. You know, nobody has ever told anybody to not look for improvements, and we're looking forward to hear what these groups of department chiefs are coming to tell us.
It wasn't addressed until very recently.
Well, and fine. Now, if I had confidence that, you know, so you've said that you're going to act on the advice of the chiefs or of the department chiefs. Let me ask you, who did Chief O'Brien recommend as the medical director?
Dr. Warren Hammer.
I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I have it in writing multiple times, Dr. Warren Hammer, which he would have actually even said that again in the last meeting, but he was directed not to speak before we took the medical director.
The resolution that was tabled, the resolution that's tabled multiple times has in it that Chief O'Brien recommended Dr. Yamrick. Now, I hope that if that wasn't actually his intent, that he would have stepped in and not allowed that to happen.
Well, not too long ago, he wanted to fire Dr. Yamrick.
So you're speaking for him. I'd be happy to have him come up and talk to us.
Just like you're speaking for him.
Doctor,
No,
I'm going to say right now
I'm sorry.
again, for lawsuit's sake, that Chief O'Brien, nowhere are we as a board saying that there was a recommendation to fire.
He did cut his pay in.
And again, you just keep digging that hole.
I don't see where I spoke for Chief O'Brien. I'm telling you, I just looked at it today. You know, the proposals that were repeatedly tabled had the words that Chief O'Brien recommended Dr. Yamrick. Now, if there's new information, if he has a new opinion, then great, let him say it. If this board were to resolve to only act on the written recommendation of Chief O'Brien, then I would be very, very satisfied.
Okay, we've entered a new contract. Is there anything else you want to talk about? We've entered into a new contract with medical director.
So that's the basis for what I'm trying to get to. That's one basis. What I'm trying to help you understand is why we're so again, if we really had assurances that you meant going forward, we've already established unless Chief O'Brien comes forward with new information and he recants what apparently was reflected in the resolution, we've already established at one time in a significant way you did not act according to the advice, the written advice of Chief O'Brien. So if we had assurance that going forward you were going to rectify that and actually act upon the recommendations of these groups of department chiefs, the recommendations that they have, acting on their writing, then a lot of people, at least I, would be pretty comfortable to go ahead and just start working with the experts, bring my perspective. And let me make clear, to whatever extent I'm going to dig into those 40,170 records, I am not an expert in these matters. I will not be an expert no matter how much I dig into it in the next short amount of time. And it boggles my mind that we're here, and with all due respect, even to the more reasoned viewpoints that I hear coming, any of us are talking about the operational decisions with regard to these life-saving services. One thing I do understand, and this is from decades of being a risk manager, is that there's never a best, this is absolutely the perfect thing to do, and there's never any trade-offs. There's always trade-offs. And so I would like to suggest, and I'm actually looking at, I started sharing today with some people who have been involved with this. I would like to suggest, at least in concept, that there's really a division of responsibility here associated with how we make these decisions with our community, within the experts, and within the trustees. Now, it's the role of the community to decide how much are we willing to pay, how much, if you put a levy on the ballot and we approve it, then that gives you guidance on the budgets that you can do. And if you'd like to recommend to the community we spend less money, you know, that's something we can determine. It's the role of Chief O'Brien and the other department chiefs to make decisions based upon the operations of these things. No matter how much it may seem to make sense to you, you do not have the perspective or the expertise to make those decisions, and you are putting lives at risk by claiming
That's why
to do
we
so.
asked the group of professionals to make their recommendations.
So, so let me get to now. Again, if we were confident that you would hold to the word that you're saying, that you would go up according to the recommendations, then we could go ahead and get some things done. Now, you've never publicly responded to the December 4th Jeff Benton email, where you put out in writing to the commissioner your intention to have already acted upon the proposal you put in front of you.
No, I said that what I wanted to do before I would make any decisions is run a test. That I would never make a decision to even put it on a ballot without a test and without seeing what that implementation plan looks like. That would be irresponsible. In addition to that, we talk about experts. What do you think Jay Fitch is? You yourself actually reached out to Jay Fitch to tell him a little bit about his business. So if Jay Fitch is not somebody that I should take issue, that I should listen to, as one of the top EMS professionals in the country, who do I listen to?
So, Trustee Lanigan, so I emailed Mr.
Fitch
Fitch today and I told him that I would not put any prepared remarks about his company in this, but I told him that I would respond to Q&A.
He was chosen by the county commission.
Trustee Lanigan, I have reached out to OSU, to the Department of Urban Planning, and to the Actuarial Sciences departments to perform a peer review as if his report was being submitted for an academic journal. Because I'm going to tell you my professional opinion, which does have some weight in these matters. I have decades of experience looking at research and drawing conclusions. My professional opinion is that that report is not suitable to use within our township to make decisions.
Okay, well, pay him with your money to present his findings, I take his findings seriously. And then I couple them with the findings of the chiefs, and, you know, that's the best I can do. So, I'm sorry if your numbers are better, but...
No, I'm not telling you, I'm not even telling you I have numbers. I have data, I don't have conclusions. And I'm enthusiastic about the potential to build really new tools to help make these decisions. I told you from our very start, we had a conversation where you spent an hour where, you know, you don't talk about this, but you spent an hour sitting in a Tim Hortons trying to tell me how terrible the union was.
I don't remember you stopping talking at all, so I don't remember ever getting a chance to say anything. What I told you was, when we have so much money, the union wants it. When there's an abundance of money, because we operated huge, we're operating right now way below. We have so much extra money.
Again, do you have the whole run on all the years later? But it's not factual, Melanie. You're not basing it on facts.
We're operating. We have so much extra money. When you have all that extra money, the union wants it. They're right now asking,
what I said to you,
they're currently asking for an 18% pay raise.
And what I said to you is, what I care about is, are these people being effective at saving lives and saving property? What I want to do is provide tools that we can help evaluate on that basis. Okay? And if they're doing a great job, then let's reward them well. If they're doing a bad job, then let's hold them to those higher standards.
Our guys are doing a good job, and they're going to do even better with a different medical directorship. But they are doing the best that they've been taught to do. And I'm excited for them because they're going to be even better. I really believe that. This has nothing to do with our guys. This is about processes, Joe. This isn't anything about our guys. Our guys do a great job. Delaware County EMS does a
You
great
made
job.
pretty clear in our discussion, and you did say plenty, you made pretty clear that there are personal grudges about our guys, and I'm concerned that, and listen.
We do have
if-
some folks that in our department aren't perfect, but everybody does.
Yeah, and if there are personal grievances, that's fine, you work those out, but you do not put our community in danger
We
by
aren't doing
going
that. We're
on
taking
a
the
vendetta.
recommendations of the
You-
professionals.
you-
You know,
Quite-
this
quite-
wouldn't even
quite
be a
frankly.
conversation if Jay Fitch didn't say you've got problems.
They didn't
He didn't.
say
He
the county.
Recommendations that were for the,
county.
no, he made recommendations so that the whole county would have better service.
He made,
His main problems were with the fact that we had 6 or 7 different EMS departments, and he said that's not good for the county overall.
I think everybody's agreed that there's opportunities for them to
And that's what we're gonna go
And,
after.
and excellent. And if we're not able to put mechanisms in place to really help assure us that that's going to happen, I hope it does.
I
But
think we are.
But please understand, I am a person who is looking at everything I can to put every motivation on the table for this board to make that kind of decision. So I stress, if you do proceed and you act upon the recommendations of the department chiefs, then we're good.
I think
We're good.
We've got a good start here.
Thank you.
And I think we all like what we're seeing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Carter. Wait, did I lose one? No, you said you wanted to do. Didn't you give me one, Dan? Okay. I see on your paper you said you'd like to be last. I have one other. Do you want him to go before you? Sure. Okay, Dan?
Kind of can't wait to hear hers. I do. I mean, someone wants to go last. It's going to be like, yeah. Okay, Dan Shea, 10473 Dexter Court, Powell, Ohio. I have some questions. I had a lot of questions, and as other people were bringing things up, I kept on writing new questions down. So I have like 30 questions now, and I know we don't have time to get to all of them. But one of the questions, Mike, early on, you and I spoke on the phone, and we talked about the possibility of opening up a third township firehouse. Is that something that is still a consideration to improve our run cards and capabilities to serve the community, rather than relying on other communities that we don't control to look at a third firehouse and actually increase our staff?
Okay, that's not been discussed amongst the board. Those were my thoughts.
I know, I'm asking you, is that something you'd still like to pursue?
It's something that one day probably will have to happen. It may be that this station closes and we move one up north, because we're not that far away from Sawmill Road. But the northern part of the township, I think, eventually is going to need to be serviced better from a location up north than what we're doing with the 2 stations down south. So yes, it's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see a traffic study based on that, because even if you moved on up north, we still have a train problem, right? That cuts us in half a mile, 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So in terms of, I have a question, Melanie, for you. You had mentioned that Dr. Gabriel, and I was confused because I didn't get the whole give and take, and that might be because of deathly ill, also deathly ill. Maybe I got Chief O'Brien has. Dr. Gabriel, you said, is going to be working with Ohio State in doing those 4 improvements that you made.
So, all I was told by the Delaware County EMS chief is that Dr. Gabriel has agreed to cooperate fully with Dr. Pinchot and the, what does he call it, evidence-based protocol.
And so there was a feeling that we were not able to do that under a current, or under a previous. Dr. Gammer was unwilling to cooperate.
I can't answer
I'm just trying to get to the motivation to move, because you
We can
mentioned.
discuss that.
But I can't answer that in the fact of Dr. Gold. He's not suing us. Dr. Gold, Dr. Yamrick, I know they had extended an invitation, as I said before, so yes, they were very willing to work with Ohio State.
Okay. We just, and this is back to the earlier question, we're concerned about 911 and the utilization of, full utilization of all of the possible, I'm sorry, I'm really having trouble with words.
Jim, before you go on, I would encourage you to reach out to Chief Schuling at Delaware County EMS for a history on medical director cooperation. That's all I can say.
Okay, so underlying that is potentially the feeling that there has not been good cooperation between our medical directors. Given that that our previous medical director is still the medical director for the vast majority of the townships in the area, right? No,
No.
is he not?
The goal.
The Goldens.
He's the medical director at Orange Township, I believe, is the only one.
I see, so really.
He's the head of the Gold, though.
So we have the gold system, which is a kind of a unified system of a protocol that reaches across all of the townships in the region.
So you have Genoa, you have Harlem, you have Orange, Liberty, Delaware City,
Concord was there at the meeting.
and Congress, yeah.
So we have the gold system that has the quality assurance in place. It has the basically.
Board of Medical Directors, everything, yes.
Yeah, and so it has everything that we're going to get.
Dan, I think there's just a difference of opinion in that the majority of the board feels that a partnership with the county and Delaware City is more beneficial to the residents than a partnership with the townships.
And Delaware City was a part of that goal, just so you know. So the only outlier was the county that, again.
I'm honestly was actually seeking clarification on that. I wasn't trying to be that's
Okay,
funny.
right,
As
so-
fun as it is.
Yeah.
So in terms of the medical directorship, I had a chance to speak with Dr. Cancel at length. Actually, right after he was after Ohio State was appointed, he and I had about a 40-minute conversation. I actually did not make it to the meeting. I was trying to get here, but I did run into him afterwards, and he and I expressed that his primary concern was making sure that the staffing levels at the township were unchanged, and that EMS stayed here in the township. That was a discussion that you had with him as well? Okay, and is that a commitment that you made to him, and is that a commitment that you would continue to make?
It's one of the reasons I felt that partnering with him would be good for the community.
So yes, you did. You would we
Appreciated that.
When you spoke to him, you said, "Hey, you come on board, and we won't make the move to Delaware County."
No, I asked him questions.
Okay.
He told me what he felt was best. And I liked his answer.
And so he said, did he say, well, if I'm going to be medical, or if Ohio State's going to be medical director, we need to make sure that we maintain all the firefighter jobs in the EMS in Liberty Township?
He did.
And we follow that recommendation.
It's one of the reasons I wanted to partner with him.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Because look,
That's, get it?
I do. So were the firefighters at risk under Dr. Yamrick? Was he recommending that we get rid of them?
I don't know. I didn't have any communication.
I'm trying to understand the difference. So the other question I have is, you had mentioned a dotted line relationship between Ohio Health Services, which you felt was, I'm not going to say inferior, right? But I'm going to say it's different than Ohio State. You felt Ohio State
I
was
felt that
better.
the Ohio State University's medical directorship program was better established, and it had some features to it that I thought were beneficial. And one of them that I thought was beneficial is A, they were appointing 2 doctors. B, if anything happens, there's vacation, it's this directorship, it's not these individuals. C, that it's part of their full-time job. Ohio State pays them. They get their paycheck from Ohio State, and we pay Ohio State. So they report up, and they're evaluated by these guys, and then they are released of those hours at the hospital, so they can dedicate them to being our medical director.
And so you had that information when you reached out to my former, you said, on December 4th, you said, hey, we want to go with Ohio State. Obviously, you had strong feelings about it at the time, and I'm not here to castigate you on having them. I'm not going to castigate you on doing research, really. I will ask this, though, to Trustee Gemperline. From Ohio Health, what communication did you have from Ohio Health that described their medical director program?
The only communication I had from Ohio Health is some internet research I had done regarding the different doctors from Ohio Health that are medical directors. I didn't see a lot on the web about their program. And I had quite a bit of conversations with Dr. Poncho and web research as well. And what I saw made me, my opinion, that the OSU was the better choice.
I guess my concern here is, wow, I've got a number of concerns, and you may be kicking into duty in just a second here for emergency medicine if I just go backwards. My concern is you don't have any documentation from Ohio Health actually describing their medical director program, their medical directorship program. We made a major change.
I do.
You do. But he had to vote. And he had to vote, and obviously he had to vote independent of any input from you or any information that you had. So I guess my concern.
He had a proposal from OSU.
But he received that proposal, what?
He had a meeting.
I had
He had a meeting with Ohio Health.
I had that information from Dr. Poncho much earlier.
Of course
And
you
I
did,
have the
because Ohio Health is.
information from Chief Schuling as well as to how that program is working for Delaware County.
And then did you reach out and get a proposal from Ohio Health?
We received a proposal from Ohio Health. I won't say I reached out to them. I was approached and I accepted the invitation and had a proposal from Ohio Health.
Did you have a physical meeting with Ohio Health?
Yeah.
We had a physical meeting. They made their presentation to them. They made their presentation to me. Ohio Health.
So we had, so he didn't solicit proposals. The township, the government body of the township put a contract in place that you did not solicit any proposals except for the proposal from Ohio State.
Are you asking me or?
I'm asking all three of them, did any of you solicit a proposal from Ohio Health or anybody else?
Yeah,
Did
I'll
we
tell you
go-
what I told Ohio Health when I sat down with all of them. I said, I apologize that I haven't been here sooner. I was under the impression that working with Dr. Yammer for 7 years, that he represented you. So I thought that's Ohio Health. I know what their program is. I know what it looks like. I know the hours. I know the protocol. I know. So that's why I didn't reach out to them. So when they reached out and said, we do not, they said, Dr. Yammer does not represent us. We have a different offering we want to tell you about. I just assumed that working with Dr. Yammer, he represented the Ohio Health Medical Director.
Okay, and that was, at that point, you halted the process and went to the formal RFP process that's required for contracts in the
Yeah, I
cities.
went and met with them.
But you went through the formal RFP process.
Yeah, they provided the
In other words, we didn't do a no-bid contract because you guys didn't vote you didn't have a unanimous vote to call a emergency, which is required to have a no-bid
No, we had a
contract.
proposal from them with pricing, and we had a proposal.
So you did go out and did a formal solicitation of a proposal.
Yeah,
That
they
when we
gave us-
FOIA'd this
that's
from
why I
your
went.
email, we're gonna get a request from our
That's-
township administrator for an
Yes.
RFP.
No, that's why I went there, because we were ready to move, because nobody else, we figured it was Dr. Yamrick or Ohio State. So
No,
when
you
Ohio
understand
Health
this.
said we have something different, then we don't have to RFP it, just so you know.
I
But
would
we did
challenge
go down and receive their proposal, review their proposal, ask them a million questions, gathered all the information, and still came to the determination that the medical directorship program was mature, developed, and more beneficial than the Ohio Health one. for many reasons of which I've already outlined.
May I jump in for a second?
I'm not sure.
So just to make sure that we understand this timeline, since at no point I was ever contacted by Ohio State until 9:45 on a Monday evening. No information was shared with me, which obviously, again, Trustee Gepperline just reinforced that he received it much earlier. So we can look into that later. But with that being said, I know Ohio Health, knowing that it was on the agenda, and at that time that it was placed on the agenda for the Ohio State medical contract to be approved, when it was placed there, there was no acceptance by Trustee Lanahan or Gepperline to meet with Ohio Health. They finally ended up meeting with them on Monday, and so did I. All three of us had individual meetings. We didn't have as elaborate of a contract that clearly having been worked through the week before. We had a proposal from Ohio Health, which again, from a fiscal standpoint, made a whole lot more sense for our township. Also, if you look about, when you're talking about a board of medical directors, which they were talking to about within the gold system, and the fact of something, if we wanted to go with an entity, because it is different from, I think what Trustee Lanahan is saying is if you have, Dr. Warren Yamrick as an individual, as an employee, as if you're going to an entity. But there was one meeting with Ohio Health, the proposal was taken, there was no back and forth with them. There was, Mount Carmel was, or, what am I trying to say, the third entity, was never ever approached to be part of this process. So again, it doesn't make much sense how that all went down, especially when we're supposed to be negotiating the best contract possible for our residents. I don't see how that can be done. Especially, I would encourage people maybe to pull the Delaware County contract that Dr. Panchel does there and see the services and see if they are similar, and then the price difference between the two.
So, Mike, how did you get the proposal? Earlier than Shire? I'd like to address the county administrator, because the proposal should.
County?
I'm sorry. I was wishful thinking for you, man. Someday. Keep on going. The proposals obviously all come to you as you're the township administrator. They wouldn't go to a legislator. They'd go to you, correct?
The county presented it the evening they came.
No, I'm at the OSU and
Oh,
lied about
sorry.
proposals. Yeah. They came to you, correct?
At some point, yes.
Did they come to you first?
I can't say they did.
Did you send them to all three trustees? Did they
So
come?
Dan, what you're unaware of probably is that there was a resolution passed. You know how township trustees, boards of trustees, they'll say, hey, Sharon, you go do this, Mike, you go do this, and you go do this, and like when Tom Mitchell was here, he negotiated the IAF contract, Sharon and I didn't, and he just brought back the contract. That's very common.
But it's not common then for the second trustee to get that information. So what we're hearing is Trustee Lanahan negotiated on, as we all know, that resolution that she passed with the board majority. But what I'm hearing is that not only did Trustee Lanahan have that, but now Trustee Gepperline had the ability to see that information way before me. And I don't remember a resolution making him like the second liaison, so I can't
Again, that's
really
what
say
I'm-
that.
It's been very clear from the beginning of this process that Trustee Icorn had no interest in any changes whatsoever.
So
No, I was based on my information. That is not true. That is false, and I'm not going to let her make false statements. That's false.
I would ask
She was not interested. She put it, every single meeting, she put a resolution on our meeting agenda to appoint Dr. Yamrick as the medical director for the next year. No bid process. There's never been a bid process.
Because he's an employee, and there's a difference between an employee and an entity. There's a difference on a process between an employee and an entity. There's a difference between an employee and an entity, and the fact is that we changed medical direction with a 10-day window. And that it wasn't being discussed before December 3rd, which again, we know what happened there. So
Nobody bids out that contract.
Well, I don't, maybe they do, or maybe they don't.
Well, if you find somebody that did, let me know.
So I do know that you don't have to bid out the hiring of an employee. I know that.
Or a contractor.
or a contractor, or a contract for services from the corporation? You're saying you don't need to do that?
Not under a certain dollar amount, no. Statutorily 50,000, you don't have to.
I think it's 20, well, I will say this, according to ORC, you can spend up to 50,000 on an emergency contract, and for you to do that, you have to have a unanimous vote declaring an emergency. This is in the ORC.
Dan, we've already confirmed it with the prosecutor's office. You don't need to.
But
anyway-
We'll confirm it again. I guess so my concern here is I mean, we're hearing a lot of things come up, and I don't think I can improve on what Joe said about the need for factual information. And I know I've gone over my 3 minutes. The last couple of questions.
I want to make sure that I clarify something. I think I just heard because they felt that I may not be interested or that I
That
kept
they
putting
didn't give you-
resolutions on, that I was kept from getting the same information
Yeah,
as my other two
I-
trustees.
No, it was just that they
No, that's what you
they
said.
passed a resolution for me to go out and.
You're right, but I guess the
I don't know how we got it.
How
did you get it?
Who did you?
Before that resolution, I had reached out to OSU.
So Ohio State sent you the proposal directly?
He reached
No,
out.
I thought that I had seen a proposal.
Mike, no, you're on record as saying you saw the proposal.
I know, I thought I had.
No, now you changed the proposal. So you voted on a proposal, you got it. That doesn't make any sense.
I thought I had seen a version of the proposal that we received. But apparently I have not, because I researched all my emails, I have not. I had talked to OSU on several occasions. And again, had done much research on the web about their program. My daughter was extremely impressed.
Right, we're gonna find out. At the end of the day, you just stated, you thought you had a proposal, you didn't have a proposal, you had it before Shira, no, you never got it. So you had to have gotten it sometime.
Dan, what is it you want to achieve?
What I want to achieve is I want to make sure that we have clear and
Give us your
transparent
thoughts on it.
governance, right? We have someone standing up and saying, look, we are going to have better runs. I want to know, is there going to be an SLA in our contract with Delaware County? Are you personally guaranteeing there will never be a 13-minute run in Liberty Township again? Because quite frankly, I
No,
want my money's back.
but-
We've been through hell in this process.
What I'm hoping is with our with the contract with the county, that they will assure us that the closest fastest vehicle will be dispatched. And I've asked for a contractual.
Please go on Thursday. If you want, you can go to the commissioner meeting on Thursday and ask if they're going to be sending us a contract.
I've got a whole life outside of this issue, right? But so, but I will try to do that, and I'm really concerned about it. Nellie, look, I've known you for a long time. I know you like to dig. I know you like to get research. Mike, I don't know you as well, and I'm really concerned that you're making decisions. You don't know when you receive contracts. You don't know when your emails come in. You don't know who you get them from. And you're making votes on it, and that really concerns me.
What I'm doing is drawing my opinion and voting on my opinion.
When you're talking about contracts, you gotta vote on it.
You disagree with Mike's opinion?
Not only do I disagree with it, I at this point feel the need to understand how contracts are coming in. And
Why don't you go ahead and sue me like everyone else in this room?
Are you done, Dan?
I think I am.
Okay, thank you. All right. Wow. Very
Okay, my name's Karen Carter. I live in Faybear Farms, Ireland Court. I've been a township resident for over 22 years, and for many of those years, until the last 7, I've been heavily involved with various aspects of township stuff. So I really appreciate the way that this works, and I appreciate all the people here, but I mostly appreciate the service that you all give. And so with that in mind, I have 2 questions to clarify something, and then I'll get into what I really want to say. Do we, yes or no, in fact, have a contract with OSU Medical Directorship?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the length of that contract?
It was 3 years last time
Really?
Unless anything's changed.
Okay.
I think it's 3 years, but I think it's got a cancellation clause at will from now.
Oh, okay. Well, I originally I wrote down that I was gonna say I have no questions, and then those two questions came up, and I just wanted to address them. So here we go. And one other thing, and I heard you say that you want to be able to put this on the ballot, the trustees want to be able to put this on the ballot so that the residents decide.
What I've always said is that I would never choose to make that replacement. I would let the voters choose if they wanted to replace EMS.
Okay.
I don't mind having it on the ballot if we could write it as a yes or no. I just have an issue with it being where it would put us in a position of having zero leverage.
Yes, but unfortunately, apparent, what I think I heard earlier was that the yes or no.
You can't do it that way.
Right. So we have to work within what is legally allowed.
Correct.
And so, okay, so we know how you would vote. Okay. So first I would like to thank the trustees for allowing public comment. I appreciate this because it is a perfect example of democracy in action. Allowing the public to speak to elected officials in a frank and candid manner with due respect is becoming very rare. I want to also thank the trustees for your service. We, the public, appreciate your willingness to serve and your desire to represent us. That's important, represent us. You perform an often thankless task as our elected representatives in the township, attending meetings that we know nothing about, having to go and talk to people and do extra research. And so we thank you very much for that, all in the process of attending to township management. I appreciate all the township trustees for what they have done to try to improve the services within Liberty Township and cut costs at every opportunity. This is most notable for everyone who has lived in the township long enough to remember when we had several different trash pickups companies, and the trustees negotiated a contract with Rumpke to be the sole trash provider in the township. My trash bill personally went from $90 quarterly to $40 quarterly, and that $50 quarterly is huge savings over a year at $200. That was huge, and wow, thank you. But the important thing is you didn't have to really do that for us. You saw an opportunity to go above and beyond what you're really required to do, and you did that for us. As far as I know, there's nothing in your charge and your oath of office that you have to do things to save us, the constituents, directly money. So I want to thank you for that. Trustees really only have to deal with the issues of the township operation: fire service, roads, zoning, planning, safety issues. But here in Liberty Township, we have trustees generally over the years who would want to offer more of some value added to their services. I am most grateful in all respect to their endeavors to provide better services and to save me money. Because ultimately it comes down to when I write the check for my property taxes, it pays for everything the township does and everything that the schools do. I need to know that my money, and I think we all do, is being spent wisely. Now, what I do expect of the trustees is to make sure the safety services and infrastructure in the township are the best that they can be. This means that making sure that our safety services are 21st century quality and our infrastructure is maintained regularly. We used to tell exactly when we hit the Franklin County line going down Sawmill Road, we'd have nice roads and suddenly it's like, gonna have to get new tires after this. So thank you. I encourage you to continue making all of your decisions based on improving service levels and finding ways to lower the cost to the residents. But it's interesting because in an effort to improve the services, keep our costs under control, there seems to be a constant discussion about the Dr. Yamarick decisions when OSU was selected as our medical provider. The critical component here, though, is that staffing decisions with a contract. You, the elected trustees, were elected because we trusted you to represent us to make wise decisions. The community has no place telling the trustees who they must hire and who they must fire in service positions throughout the township. From the fire chief to the snowplow driver. You are the ones that interview them, you are the ones that hire them or fire them, keep them, let them go, whatever. We have to trust that behind closed doors that you're making the best decisions. And as has been potentially considered, OSU offers an excellent service for that. We are not a rural community, as the gentleman that cited the code that says we are not a rural community. Our services are on more of an urban level. We need to make sure that we are working with top-notch people, and those people are working in our community for top-notch services. I'm sorry, that's an alarm going off on my phone. We need you, the trustees, to do the jobs that you were elected to do. And we need to trust you that you are doing the best to your ability as our best representatives. Now, I will agree with some of you sometimes, and I will disagree with you other times. Just like I'll disagree with my neighbor, or I'll agree with somebody that I haven't seen in 100 years. You know, but that makes us good neighbors. And that's what makes living up in this community a nice place to live. The important thing is, at the end of the day, where are our services? How does it service the community? And what's in the best interest long term? There's very many cities that get into trouble because they're like, well, we've got plenty of money right now. We're going on a roll. You know, in 5 years down the road, they didn't plan that they were going to have a problem. So we have to make sure that our sustainability is going to be there. That's the only way that the house values, which is the most reason why we all live up here, the education and the housing values, they are maintained consistent and continue to grow. Which brings me to the EMS. You know, this EMS challenge that we seem to have, everybody wants to argue about it. And that is our right to argue about it. But unfortunately, I think we have to always keep in mind that we shouldn't argue so much as we should discuss and debate. And there has been a little bit of ugliness here tonight, and which is quite dismaying, because I would love to have a conversation with anyone, as long as it's civil. It must always remain civil. The trustees did what they thought was in their best interest, and they looked at the Fitch report, which there are plenty of people who disagree with, and they looked at all the recommendations. What they can only go on is what they have in front of them. So they looked at the recommendations, and they started to develop a plan. And they looked at the things that are going to give us that good service, that first response vehicle nearest reply. You know, anybody that has any medical issues, and newsflash, we're not getting any younger. You know, the challenge that we run into is we have to be careful. You know, how does that sort out? How does that actually sort out? I don't want a truck that's 15 minutes away. If, you know, I had a problem a little while back. They kept saying, oh, it's indigestion, it's indigestion. It wasn't indigestion. You know, my indigestion could have been death if I would have been too far away. And that's a problem. We have to make sure that that closest truck is the most important thing to our house. When you have a problem, when your child is choking on something, you want to wait 15 minutes. We don't want that. We want the closest vehicle. And I'll be at the meeting next time when the 911 shows up, you know, if they can show us the demographics, the whatever it was, that really outlines who and where and how long it's taking. Sure, we have some outlying districts where you know, this fire station that's just around the corner from my house, I mean, I'm golden. I don't have any issues. I don't have a railroad track. I've got a good EMS right there. They're fast, you know. But ultimately, I worry also about the people that we service. You know, the people that are in the far reaches. I see a lot of Concord Township trucks over in our township, because we need to certainly consider, like you mentioned, Trustee Gemperline, that we're going to have to consider putting in some other fire stations so that we can make sure that all of our residents are covered. We are only growing. We are only going to get more people, and we are only going to get more problems if we don't get this resolved. I just want to encourage everybody, to consider, we may disagree, but we need to make sure that our services are where they need to be. And if that comes down to the best services are going to be with Delaware County, maybe what we do is we work something out so that they can put 3 guys in a truck. Maybe there's a compromise. Maybe there isn't. But I'll tell you one thing, ultimately, we have to make the cost of living up in this area appealing for people to still come. Because as soon as kids graduate from high school, we have an exodus out of this community. And they're moving to Plain City because taxes are lower out there. We have to keep our intellectual minds that are here to make this place a better place. Realistically, I personally think that we have to find a win-win solution for the residents and for the EMS and for the budget. That's a challenge. Those 3 things are the challenge. And that's what we need to make sure that we work with. I want to personally thank Melanie for one thing. She has been here for many years. Before she was on this board, she was out here sitting where you sit for many years. I have never known her not to work for what's in the best interest of this community, ever. And I don't believe that this is going to change now. I think that she's going to want the best, and I think we need to give her an opportunity, okay? Liberty Township has been blessed to have trustees that are not cut out of the same fabric as most politicians today. Their focus has been service with savings. That's my saying, service with savings. To that, I say a hearty thank you to what you have done, and you will have my support, although I might not agree with all of you at the same time. Okay? Thank you.
All right, that closes public comment.
I did want to address a couple things, and I want to thank you very much for coming up and making those comments. I don't want there to be a misconception out there that if there was a child choking that it would have taken 15 minutes. That's not the case. I also want to say that I do believe in the fact that if we keep local control, some of those things that you're talking about is us continuing to look at cost savings. And trying some things out, saying, okay, whether we talk about 2 or 3 man medic, which I know is a hot button, but if we want to, that we would be able to go back and forth between those. I don't think we can just say that the Fitch report is what we could go on. That's not at all what we should only be doing. We should be meeting with our medical directors. We should be meeting with our chiefs. We should be looking at the actual data coming in, because the Fitch report wasn't written for us. We didn't pay for that. It's nice that we have that to look at, but that certainly isn't what should be the driving force of the decisions that we are making. But I know, but I do agree that if we can't discuss things in a constructive manner, it makes it much more difficult. And I know that I just truly appreciate you coming up and making those comments.
Thank you. One thing that, as an observer, okay, because I've been a very sporadic attender over the last 2 years because I was here so much for so long. And the challenge that we have is ultimately, we can't play sides, none of us. And,
well, we can play the resident's side. We need to be
always
doing
play the
resident's
resident's
side.
side. But the challenge is, you represent these red shirts as much as you represent me. And you have to keep that in mind. All of you do. Because, I mean, I can be friends with my friend over there and totally disagree with her. It doesn't mean I'm going to vote the same way that she votes. But ultimately, we have to maintain civility. And it verged on incivility a couple of times in both locations. Okay.
And I do think that, it was very respectful for when you came up and spoke. I don't think it's right to say that I represent the people in the red shirts and people like you. I'm here to represent all the residents, which I hope my two trustees would do as well, and be very respectful and kind. And I think, I'm hopeful that if there's, like you said, residents like me, if there's a lot of other people that we have been waiting to hear from that are very interested, and maybe there's some people out there that 100% wanted to go with that county proposal.
You know the challenge though? The challenge is this. There's a lot of people out there that have been, I mean, let's face it, politics has changed in this country in the last 10 years. And people that would normally come forward and say things are so afraid of social media. I mean, I even pondered deleting my Facebook account today.
But you can see that you've seen.
I'm not done. Don't let me finish. And the challenge is this. There's so much viciousness out there that I firmly believe that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish. People, you can't please all the people all the time. I mean, that's absolutely true.
Yes.
But we can try to find a medium that works for most of the people. And there seems to be some polarity without consideration. And I don't think that anybody out here has any decision on how you hire and sign contracts, ultimately. That's the bottom line. That's your job. We voted for you or didn't vote for you, whatever the case, and you're the elected officials, and now you have that job to do. You know, we can't go back and second guess anything that you do. And anybody out here that's trying to second guess things that you have done, that if it's water under the bridge, it's gone. They can make it, anybody can impact that decision at voting time next time around.
You're right. But in everything that we've ever had before, any kind of topic that came up, anything that's been even remotely controversial, we at least would have a significant amount. If they didn't feel comfortable coming to the meeting, they would reach out through emails, or they would reach out for phone calls, or they'd even send in letters, or they'd even send them in anonymous. And every single communication, and again, I applaud you for coming here, there has not been one other email that I have received, because I keep forwarding them to Matt for him to be able to print out. Hundreds now, we're at hundreds of residents from the emails, and then you have other people calling, coming by, meeting. So far, we're not seeing that other side, and I think,
Why does it matter? Why does it matter if I'm the only one?
Because what I'm saying is that when I hear that there's a supposed silent majority, I think that's very condescending, saying that there's a bunch of educated people that have done their research and they are afraid, supposedly by this mob, who've been very kind while you spoke. They haven't been interrupting you. I think we want your side. So I don't think
got
it's silent
worn down
majority.
by all the earlier people. The thing is this. It's, when it comes down to it, I think there are a lot of people out there that are not going to come to
Why
these
do we treat
meetings.
people that way? You just said, here comes their true colors. I'm trying to be very respectful to her. You're not respectful to these residents.
You hear how disrespectful they're being to her? They're very disruptive.
They were
You know what? You know what?
And the reason people don't come here, and I do get their emails, Karen, I get all of their emails.
Then
You know what
great,
they
you can
say?
do that for public records.
Do not share this with anybody.
But it's a public
Because
record.
they are afraid to come into this room.
She just
Because
said she has
the way
plenty of emails and public records, so
here.
you should be able to reduce those.
You know what though? She has to respect the fact that somebody has requested confidentiality.
That's not how it works for people.
But you know what?
That's not how it works in government. I have to come up with all emails. That's not how it works.
Okay.
So people are very afraid to come. And
Thank you for your
many.
time. I appreciate it.
So just so you know, now we can public records those emails.
Okay, moving on, resolution, is Nancy gone?
Yes.
Resolution, move to approve resolution 1902-0401, approving purchase orders.
Second.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Mrs. Loveland?
Yes. Move to approve resolution 1902-0402, accepting 2019 bills, warrants, and charges.
Second.
Mrs. Eichhorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyon?
Yes. Move to approve resolution 190204003, 2019 permanent appropriation amendment.
Second that.
Say,
Mrs. Lyon?
I just want to see what we're amending.
What's this appropriation for?
It's an amendment.
Okay.
Usually it's highlighted. Okay, yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Mrs. Eichhorn?
Yes.
Move to approve resolution 190204004, recommending approval of a division of liquor control new license application for Mad Mad LLC, DBA Pablo's Havana Cafe.
Second. I hear it's fantastic, but I have not been there.
It's one of our newest restaurants over off Old Sawmill Road. There are a lot of good things about it too. Mrs. Eichhorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Lyon?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Resolution 5 is the soft billing legislation. My understanding is the same pretty much as the county's contract. I think their name change in the company from when we county first started looking at it to where we are now. Guys, don't know anything else to?
Can you explain though about the bidding process of how it's different because we're going through the
County project.
Okay,
County,
move to approve resolution number 190204005.
Second.
sorry. The county, about a year or so ago, I believe, did a RFP, I guess, to look for soft billing companies, because they did that process. They had an agreement within there that would allow other entities to join onto that same program. And this is the program that Liberty Township is looking to also participate in. There's not supposed to be any charges to the residents for transportation. It's also, soft billing is supposed to go out to your insurance company to get any money that they set aside. I believe there's a 1% of the premiums need to be set aside for this program to be used. They don't just automatically give it to you, you have to go pay for it. So this organization will allow the township to go after some of those insurance money for reimbursement of runs done by EMS.
From the funds that are collected through this soft billing, is there a possibility of sending a mailing to the recipient of the bill that they don't have to pay this thing? Is there a possibility that we can do that as well?
I think because it's a contract with the county, it's probably something we're going to have to, well, it's not a contract with the county, it's a contract through an organization that the county went out to bid for. I'd have to follow up with them on that.
Could you look into that?
But Trustee Gumperline, I do think there's something in there where we can make special specific requests or address. So I think we could, if you're saying like, if they even got a bill and you had something even within that bill with a paragraph, or are you thinking a whole separate letter?
Do it in the same piece that the insurance companies would look at that week. But maybe a separate mail. If you can do it in the same piece, that's the most efficient. But I'm thinking, again, if I was an insurance company and the township said, you know, they don't have to pay this, only the insurance company has to pay it, I wouldn't want to be there.
And I do think this goes back to what we discussed before about making sure that even on the, and I know what you're saying about ongoing, which I agree, but the upfront of making sure that we do a strong, whether we have meetings, mailers, whatever, of communicating of exactly how that system works and the difference between resident, non-resident, and again, of not being afraid to call 911.
Absolutely. Can you look into if there's a possible way to do a mailing notice to the recipient of the bill I think it probably needs to be a separate piece. Let them know what the policy is.
To the residents. Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Resolution 6 is the authorizing expenditures for the IT equipment. This is what we discussed at the last meeting about the equipment we had. That's not for the fiber that we just recently ran into.
I'm sorry, man, I didn't hear you. I lost what you were saying, I didn't hear you.
This resolution is for the equipment that will allow the fiber that has been installed into 321 to be able to process at the speed.
Okay. I'm looking now.
We will put the existing equipment on Gov Deals and try to make some money on that then, which will offset this particular cost.
Move to approve resolution 19020406.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Resolution 7 is authorizing the Liberty Park maintenance and use agreement with FC Barcelona. I do have Michael Landon from the Parks Department here. Should you have any questions?
You still there?
Move to approve resolution 19020407.
Second.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Resolution 8 is to authorize South Liberty Park maintenance and use agreement with I-9 Sports.
Move to approve resolution 19020409.
08.
Is you right?
Second.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Resolution 9 is to authorize Patriot Park maintenance and agreement use with Old Candy Patriot Little League.
Move to approve resolution 19020409.
Second then.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
And resolution 10 is to authorize Patriot Park maintenance and use agreement with I-9 Sports.
Move to approve resolution 19020410.
Second.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Resolution 11 is authorizing South Liberty Park maintenance and use agreement with Classic Eagles.
Move to approve resolution 19020411.
Second that.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Resolution 12 is authorizing the purchase of equipment to the Parks and Road Services Department. This is, the Park Department has 5 John Deere 2017 Hustler mowers. Purchased as part of a warranty program and that are now due for the trade-in. Staff found that this program is most cost-effective due to the nearby heavy daily use of these mowers, especially during the summer and spring months, obviously. An operational efficiency of maintaining newer equipment with warranties. So, it's an ongoing program that the Parks Department has utilized in the past.
Move to approve resolution 19020412.
Second.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Resolution 13 is authorized expenditures for emergency repairs to the road department vehicle. During one of the snowplow season runs, one of our trucks went down. So it was repaired at the cost of $2,972.49.
Move to approve resolution 19020413.
Second.
Mr. Gumperline?
Yes.
Ms. Lanahan?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Resolution 14 is authorized expenditures for fire department and computer equipment. We were awarded a State of Ohio grant for mobile computers, purchase additional equipment to complete the installation at a cost of $3,459.
Move to approve resolution 190204114.
Second.
Ms. Lenihan?
Yes.
Ms. Seifhorn?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Resolution 15 is approving the fiscal year 2019 emergency management appropriation payments. County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management has been funded in part by collecting dollars from Delaware local government. It's based off the annual population, so cost is, I need the glasses here. $8,293.50?
60.
60. Thank you.
Move to approve resolution 190204115.
Second.
Mrs. Lightford?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Lenihan?
Yes.
Resolution 16, formally rejecting the November 27, 2018 Delaware County proposal to Liberty Township regarding EMS.
Based on the fact that the recommendations that are coming out is far from, I'm sorry, no, wait, we're on 16, I go back. Based on the fact that the information that's coming out that we have so far is a very distant from what the proposal was, and that it's not going to affect any negotiation going from back and forth. Again, I like to put on the table, as I have the last couple of weeks, the resolution, make a motion to approve resolution 19-0204-16.
As I said, last meeting, the commissioners, and I've gotten nothing different since then. The options were accept, reject, or modify. I'm looking to modify, so I don't want to reject.
There's a second. Resolution 17 is designating Liberty Township Fire Department as primary provider of fire and emergency medical services in the township pursuant to revised code 505.37A.
Make a motion to approve resolution 19-020417 based on all the discussions that we have had in the public meetings, based on all the information that's coming out from the chief. Never is there any word that they wouldn't be the primary provider. They may not be the sole provider, which they aren't now, but they definitely will remain the primary provider.
There's a second. Resolution 18 is approving Liberty Township credit card policy. It is in the best interest of Liberty Township to have an approved credit card policy to ensure all township issued credit cards are used and mentioned, monitored, and compliant with all applicable rules and regulations. This is a policy that was sent to us by the county prosecutor's office.
Move to approve resolution 190204118.
Second that.
Ms. Seifhorn? Ms. Lenihan?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah.
Unscheduled business? No unscheduled business?
I know I'm the one that called executive. I don't need to have that executive anymore unless there's something else there that was called by Mike Canal or trustee Money and trustee Deckerlin.
It's the same executive that we had at the last special meeting.
I'll move to go in to executive session for ORC 12122G8. other ORC we're going in under?
Just the G8.
Just GA? You're good? You don't need to discuss it?
I don't need to discuss it.
All right.
Not tonight.
I want motion.
Cancel.
All right.
Adjourn?
Wait, we haven't signed.